Hi, I'm Adam Nayman with another Ringer video essay. The long-delayed release this summer of director Jeff Nichols' fact-based 1960s period piece, The Bikeriders, will surely give fans of facial hair and funny accents reason to celebrate. Between Tom Hardy and Austin Butler, the accents are going to be off the charts. In all seriousness, though, The Bikeriders arrives as a modern spin on an old tradition, one that actually exists as a primal scene of American movie cool. The motorcycle film hasn't been in vogue lately, but at its best, the genre has helped to shape American popular culture and fashion in its own sleek, metallic image. For this Ringer video essay, we've taken a look at some of the most famous and enduring biker movies from the 1950s and onward, from comedies to action movies to unintentionally funny action movies, including a few titles that fall outside the genre while still playing interestingly with its iconography. In future, we're pretty sure that Nichols' film will belong on this list. For now, consider this a chance to play catch-up. Any proper history of the American motorcycle film begins with Laszlo Benedek's 1953 drama The Wild One, which adapted a sensationalistic, non-fiction story by Harper's writer Frank Rooney called The Cyclist Raid. That story was about a California biker rally that got dangerously out of hand, and the message as written was supposed to be moralistic, cautioning readers against the defiant lifestyle and ideology of its featured biker characters. In the film, the casting of Marlon Brando as the hard-driving gang leader Johnny Strabler turned what was supposed to be a cautionary tale into a recruiting poster. Cast as an anti-establishment hellraiser who blows into a small town only to get his heart melted by a local girl, Brando, who may have been the greatest actor of his generation, created a seductive alpha male archetype, one whose attitude and accessories endure even today. You can still see traces of Johnny Strabler in characters' film, television, and even video games. The leather jacket, the steel-toed boots, the embedded sneer. Brando also delivered the film's signature line.
Hey, Johnny, what are you rebelling against?
What do you got?
A brilliantly flipped response to the question of what exactly Johnny and his posse are rebelling against, so perfectly that it became a generational battle cry, taken up by ensuing legions of culture warriors motoring through the world on their own iconoclastic terms. The late Roger Corman had a knack for capturing the zeitgeist, and 1966's The Wild Angels stands as a monument to his savvy. At a moment when Hollywood was struggling to project a more family-friendly image, Corman and his merry band of outlaws plunged into a subculture that was very, very much outside the mainstream and emerged with a thrifty and influential indie film blockbuster. Corman enlisted the whiz kid film critic turned filmmaker Peter Bogdanovich to work on the screenplay, and then also turned to the real-life Hells Angels for inspiration, plying his so-called consultants with booze and pot in exchange for stories of life on the road that could be embellished into a mythic picaresque. The Wild Angels is about a charismatic biker gang leader named Heavenly Blues, trying to recover his stolen chopper. The cast includes not only Peter Fonda in the lead and also Nancy Sinatra, two of the great prototypical Nepo babies leveraging celebrity against their material's depraved reputation, but also future stars Bruce Dern and Diane Ladd. In fact, the legend goes that the pair's daughter, Laura Dern, was conceived during the shoot. The Wild Angels is sexually explicit, brutally violent, and quietly damning in its depiction of a country overrun by carnage and divided on lines of race and class. The film was marketed as exploitation, but it struck a chord with critics of the period as a work of propulsive, hardscrabble exploitation movie artistry. Its under-the-radar success and trend-setting reputation would help lead Fonda down the path to making Easy Rider a few years later. The heroes of Easy Rider travel the wrong way across America, eastward from Los Angeles towards New Orleans, a reversal of manifest destiny that doubled as a shortcut to cinematic immortality. One of a handful of genuinely paradigm-shifting movies, Easy Rider built on the commercial viability of movies like The Wild Angels, but its creative team, including Fonda, co-wrote the film with Dennis Hopper, who was the movie's director, had something artier in mind. By fusing the dusty iconography of classic westerns with the chrome metal aesthetics of biker culture, and sprinkling the proceedings with a healthy dose of hallucinatory substances, including a lot of LSD-inspired music, Easy Rider not only bridged a certain generation gap, but created its own wild, romantic vision. By no means the first American road movie, but it may have been the most transformative. It also helped to launch the career of Jack Nicholson, at that time only semi-well-known, who stole the film and earned an Oscar nomination as an alcoholic but idealistic lawyer who ends up riding with the protagonists for a good part of their journey. The image of Easy Rider's heroes, Billy and Captain America, cruising the highway on Harley-Davidsons to the strains of Steppenwolf was incredibly potent stuff. It was potent enough, in fact, to help launch a filmmaking revolution. And chances are that even if you've never seen Easy Rider, you've seen it through the lens of homage, parody, and shameless imitation. After emerging in the late 1960s as a self-styled professional daredevil, Evel Knievel helped to domesticate the image of bad boy motorcyclists everywhere. The fact is, the biggest threat the Montana-born insurance salesman turned motocross rider and master self-promoter posed was to his own well-being. Knievel nearly killed himself trying to jump the fountains at Caesar's Palace, and trying to jump over a lot of other things, but his failures, most of them filmed and broadcast on TV, brought him celebrity, to the point that he earned his very own hagiographic biopic. In 1977's Viva Canal, the star plays himself as a heroic man of the people, at one point delivering toys to disabled orphans and even battling drug runners, all while showing off his signature skills in front of adoring, sold-out audiences. In the movie, he lands his jumps far more successfully than he did in real life. Ironically, Knievel did not actually perform his most dangerous stunts in the film, a fact downplayed by the studio lest it damage their star's mystique. As it turned out, keeping that secret didn't really matter, after Evel Knievel and his associates brutalized a promoter with an aluminum bat on the eve of the premiere. A shocking act of brutality that turned Viva Knievel into a sort of commercial liability and landed its headliner in prison and ignominy for the rest of his life. As an artifact enshrining one of the weirdest entertainers to ever become a household name, Evel Knievel's Viva Knievel is indispensable. On every other level, though, it's absolutely terrible. Originally conceived as an authentic medieval epic, George A. Romero's Knight Riders took a very different turn. It's a love letter to live-action role-playing set in the present tense. Its heroes are members of a Renaissance fair troupe who fuse old-school pageantry with state-of-the-art technology. In lieu of horses, they joust in front of crowds on motorcycles, an image loaded with a kind of lyrical fairy tale potency that explodes the tension between old-school fantasy and down-and-dirty modernity. Instead of leather-clad rebels terrorizing the highways of America, Romero imagines a benign, but still unstable and competitive subculture that's being slowly corrupted and compromised from within. And while the premise skirts absurdity, the earnest passion of the filmmaking and the excellent performances by a group of young actors, including Ed Harris, propel Knight Riders into the realm of cult movie sublimity. Not only is it much better than its reputation, it's proof that Romero was a marvelous filmmaker outside of the zombie genre. Just as a little footnote, a few years later, but in the Netherlands, director Paul Verhoeven would craft his own version of a similar story with Spetters, a downbeat, quasi-mythic drama set in the world of dirt bike racing. The two of them together, Knight Riders and Spetters, makes for one hell of a double bill. One way to look at Kathryn Bigelow's striking debut feature, The Loveless, is as a spiritual remake of The Wild One, with the gender dynamics revved up and the pistons exposed. It's a work of genre deconstruction that's not so much a story about a malevolent biker gang as it is an analysis of the image of biker gangs in cinema. Willem Dafoe stars as Vance, the slick-back leader of a pack of greasers who actually seem a lot more interested in posing than raising hell. Shooting with a retro color palette and stylized production design, Bigelow simultaneously spoofs 50s chic while elevating it to the level of mythic nostalgia. Critics who decried the movie a simple pastiche missed Bigelow's wry satire of masculinity, which ultimately places the callow and beautiful Vance on a higher moral plane than the numbskull rednecks who are trying to run him out of town. A twist that transforms The Loveless into a pretty apt sociological critique. Bigelow would revise the film's plot and iconography for her 1987 thriller Near Dark, whose vampire bad guys were styled to resemble literal Hell's Angels. There's a decent chance that Leonard Smalls, aka the demon biker of the apocalypse, is nothing more than a figment of Nicolas Cage's imagination in Raising Arizona. He's the kind of pumped-up, tattooed, motorcycle-riding grotesque you'd dream up after a midnight double feature of Mad Max and The Road Warrior. For Cage's H.I. McDonough, the demon biker is a symbol of a guilty conscience. He is, quote, the fury that would be, after furniture magnate Nathan Arizona discovers one of his quintets has been kidnapped by our hero. As such, the final showdown plays like a self-exorcism, with H.I. getting his ass righteously kicked by his own dark side. Joel and Ethan Coen's deliriously funny action comedy mashes up so many different genres, from screwball comedy to old-school western to Looney Tunes slapstick, that adding some biker imagery for good measure was, fair enough. The over-the-top menace embodied by Leonard Smalls is a species of harsh machismo that the Coens are happy to indulge and even glorify, as long as they get to literally explode it in the end. There are many funnier sight gags in 80s cinema than Leonard casually blowing up a bunny with a grenade as he plows down the highway, a lethal sight gag in a movie that never makes the mistake of taking his menace too seriously. The specs for Shotaro Kaneda's Blood Red bike and the cyberpunk masterpiece Akira list anti-lock brakes and 200 horsepowers, which were the stuff of science fiction in 1988. Unlike other relics of that era, Katsuhiro Otomo's film retains a tremendous sense of state-of-the-art cool. Akira's plot turns on a motorcycle accident that gives a Japanese gang member terrifying telekinetic powers. Imagine the Wild Angels mixed with Carrie set in the post-apocalyptic landscape of Mad Max, and also with subtitles, and you're almost there. The nuclear-blasted cityscape of Neo-Tokyo is one of the great cartoon backdrops, and the animation of the film's action sequences, including the iconic Akira slide, performed by Kaneda in the midst of a white-knuckle chase, transforms two-dimensional pulp into genuine art. Over the past 30 years, countless live-action and cartoon movies have paid tribute to the Akira slide, including an out-of-nowhere and thoroughly awesome hat tip near the climax of Jordan Peele's Nope. When Arnold Schwarzenegger roasts the regulars at a biker bar to the strains of Bad to the Bone at the beginning of Terminator II Judgment Day, it's obvious James Cameron is having a bit of fun with a half-century's worth of biker movie imagery. In the presence of the Terminator, even the Hells Angels move a notch or two down the pecking order. The clothes, as they say, make the man, and the biker chic version of the Terminator is arguably more iconic than the one who hot-wired police cars and tanker trucks in the 1984 original. The jaw-dropping first-act chase through the LA Reservoir System, pitting Arnold's motorcycle against a massive semi piloted by the T-1000, belongs on the short list of great stunt-driving scenes. Arnold ditches the bike shortly thereafter, but its presence on T2's poster and in its marketing materials makes the film an honorary motorcycle movie classic. Arnold's Harley-Davidson Fatboy, meanwhile, would go on to be a staple of Planet Hollywood exhibits everywhere for years to come. One of the greatest bad movies in the 90s, Stone Cold features Brian Bosworth, aka The Boz, as a renegade super cop trying to infiltrate a white supremacist biker gang known as the Brotherhood, a gig that takes him right into the heart of American darkness, i.e. walking around shirtless on a beach with a bunch of other muscly dudes. Originally, Stone Cold was threatened with an NC-17 rating for violence. It's crazy to think that what is still in it, that what was left over after the cuts, managed to get an R. This is a vicious, gratuitous, entirely brain-dead movie, I say this as a compliment, with insane racist villains who deserve everything coming to them from the Boz. In truth, the film's biking sequences leave a little to desired, but that's okay when you have other material, like the Boz breaking up a convenience store robbery while eating a chocolate chip cookie, and then making a smoothie for his pet Komodo dragon. They just don't make them like this anymore. Music video ace Joseph Kahn admitted he was deliberately trying to spoof The Fast and the Furious with 2004's Torque, an outrageously stylized action movie that pivots on a cache of stolen motorcycles loaded with meth, a twist that oddly invokes the noir classic Night of the Hunter. To get back to The Fast and the Furious, at one point a character explains he lives his life a quarter mile at a time, and he is told by another character that that's the dumbest thing anybody's ever said. If you think that that's funny satire, Torque is the movie for you. Kahn is a really virtuosic director, and Torque in some ways is quite beautifully made. The film is propulsively shot and edited with candy-colored costumes and expressive production design. The designs of this movie split the difference between biker cool and evil Knievelish tackiness. It's the sort of movie for which the phrase over the top is frankly an understatement, but it holds up better for me than any other biker-themed Hollywood movie of the 2000s. You could call him a rebel with a cause. In The Master, Philip Seymour Hoffman's Lancaster Dodd is a cult leader looking for a way to blow off steam, which means racing motorcycles across the Great Salt Flats. This works well for Dodd, but less so for his acolyte Freddie Quell, played by Joaquin Phoenix, who, told to pick a point in the distance and head for it, just keeps going. A sight gag that is also a sort of existential punchline. Now, Freddie doesn't look much like Marlon Brando, but in a movie set in the early 50s, he's still very much a wild one, and the image of him heading at top speed into the middle of nowhere consolidates the film's themes of loneliness and spiritual yearning. It puts The Master on the list of great motorcycle movies, maybe as a footnote, but an indelible one that belongs all the same. That's the end of our list. If we ever do this again, I'm sure the Bikeriders will make an appearance. Did we forget anything? Should we have done Scorpio Rising? Is there anything else that you would have preferred to see on this ringer list? That's what comments are for. You can let us know. Hopefully, we'll see you again in this space soon. Take care.